The Mavericks are now 0-5 in game ones in the playoff with Jason Kidd as their head coach. And so we were talking about, Reggie brought it up, but why?
Because he and KG would talk about this stuff on the way home from Mavs game.
That is
KG.
Kevin Gray. That is correct, but I meant more specifically why Jason Kidd, not why the conversation took place.
Gotcha.
That's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up, though.
Just wanted to point out our friend KG's he would talk about things.
I thought you were saying that KG was talking with Jason Kidd, and I was like, KG's got a lot more power than I realized.
Possibility. I don't know the answer to that question.
Next thing you know, he'll be yawning in front of the commissioner at a game. It'll be great.
That's right.
So we decided to track this down. Is there a thread that goes through these game ones? Because you have to go back to the 2021-22 season, and then this season. 5 game ones, 5 losses. If you guys had to speculate, do you think there's commonalities? And if so, what would those commonalities be?
Lack of aggression, looking inept at times early in the game, and looking like you're just kind of easing into a game. That's my commonality. That's the
Okay.
I feel like that's more philosophical than it is like something that is concrete.
Fair.
But just from what I see, same kind of thing happened last night where I was like, okay, I actually liked that the score was where it was at the end of the first quarter. I was like, man, that felt more like when the Mavericks said, hey, we're going to try and not let the Clippers get out to a 46-point lead. It felt like, okay, they felt them out, but this is very serious possession-by-possession basketball despite some bad turnover situations. So that's
Okay.
my common thread is looking prepared.
Yeah, what's funny is, like, that's the same place I am. Like, effort and energy early is what it feels like. And I understand that is not, like, statistically based. It's just kind of, as you mentioned, like, just kind of almost like the feeling and vibes of it. But if you're not, I mean, in that game in particular, they did not look like they had the same energy to match what was a young and athletic Oklahoma City Thunder team, and that put them behind the 8 ball.
Okay, I think what both of y'all said is going to come into play in at least one part of this.
Okay.
And you get another person from the 972. Bad coaching prep before seeing them in game one is my opinion. It's like he can't make adjustments until he sees the team in person.
But that wouldn't be an adjustment. That would be like the original game plan.
Yeah,
You
I
just
guess.
off of it.
But if you just change that one word, you get their point, right?
Sure.
You can't make a game plan before you see them in person to make your, I guess, more appropriate plan. There's 2 things that you see throughout all of these games. Bad 3-point shooting, and to y'all's point, poor rebounding. All right, so check this out. So I decided to investigate all 5 of these game ones.
I dare you.
I did.
Oh.
So
Your
challenge accepted.
face.
Dare rescinded.
Only one of these games did the Mavericks shoot 35% or better from 3. I'm not even setting a high bar. Like, if you shoot 40% or better from 3 as a team, that's a good night at the office. Only one time did they shoot better than 35%.
Okay.
And so that's problematic. And it's something that we're going to dive into a little bit more tomorrow. Clearly, Luka is off one way or another, whether you think it's just his shooting, whether you think it's a lack of energy or whatever else. Clearly, he shot poorly from 3 last night, and that was emblematic of the team as a whole that shot poorly from 3.
Okay, do you have a feeling on why they shoot poorly from 3 in these? Because last night in particular, it didn't look like they had poor shot selection when it came to their threes.
Okay, I'm glad that you brought that up because I think it's a different thing for every series. So, for example, in the Golden State Western Conference Finals a couple of years ago, I thought, I know this is really simple, but it's the same thing with Phoenix. I thought you just didn't hit the shots that were there for you, much like you said last night. Against the Clippers in this game one, and then against the Jazz in game one a couple of years ago, I thought it was better defense from the other team that led to a more difficult time shooting. But that is a different thing because last night, to your point, I thought some of the shots were there and they just didn't go down. Like you saw.
And granted, if Luka makes his,
the rest of the team
you're
shot over
35%.
Yes.
Like only
For
Josh
sure.
Green was 3 of 8. Kyrie was 3 for 4. PJ Washington was 2 for 3. Everybody else was pretty good.
So the rest of the team outside of Luka, I believe, was 11 for 27 from 3.
That's like 50%.
You can
ish.
You can live with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But Luka drug down the percentage. The other thing is rebounding. In those 5 games, the Mavericks not only did not win the rebounding battle once, last night was the 4th time they lost it by more than 10.
Okay.
So think about this. The average rebounding margin in these game ones, 50 to 37.
What number did you say yesterday, Kevin?
45.
45 was the number they had.
How many
to
did they
avoid.
get? 52?
You said avoid the number 45, and they got 52 of them.
And you knew it was going to be a problem because in the second quarter, you could already see the problem was there. It had developed. It wasn't developing. Oklahoma City Thunder, they're the second worst offensive rebounding team in the NBA. They average 8.8 offensive rebounds per game. With 5 minutes left in the second quarter, they had 9. So think about that. They were essentially at their season average 19 minutes into a 48-minute game. That's a bad sign. That's always going to be a bad sign. Don't get it twisted. Oklahoma City is a really good team. They are not good at rebounding. And the one avenue where you had to at least stay level, if not have an advantage, you got smoked on.
I got a couple of questions specifically about last night and less about all the rest of this.
That's fine.
Maxi's out, and so you're trying to find some threat otherwise. And I think we all probably got nervous when Gafford and Derek Lively had a number of fouls on their body, on their person. Like it was very early.
I do have
PJ
concerns
Washington
about
had
the
3. But so then you're like, okay, what are our bigs after that? And you're trying to figure, okay, Dwight Powell's going to get some minutes now. So like that's kind of a little frustrating. But Josh Green,
Dwight Powell got minutes when the game was over.
Yes. Well, if it comes to if both of them have 4 fouls at halftime, what are you doing? Are you going small?
Yeah, you're probably small balling, and you might see PJ Washington play some small ball.
Who had 3 fouls on him like in the second quarter, so that was a struggle too.
The whistles were tight last night. I agree.
But what I was getting to was Josh Green is he was taking up your minutes there last night, and Hardaway's 0 for 4. From 3. You got to find a way to get Hardaway back into a groove.
Wait, before we move on, because I know that the foul thing came up, and we could talk about like the whistle later, but I do want to talk about specifically, there's a lot of people using fouls to validate the fact that you didn't get rebounds, and I'm not buying that.
No. I miss Maxey more from a spot up 3 shooting perspective than rebounding perspective.
But I actually miss him as a guy who does well as a try-hard defender.
I have heard this brought up over the course of the evening, and I think that's ridiculous. You ultimately have Gafford and Lively, a pairing of 2 bigs, on the court for 40 minutes during the course of this game, and that's before the game is basically over, and you then put in I don't know the nice way to say it, but y'all know what I'm trying to say without being mean. Right? You have those guys on the floor, and you do not have the corresponding situation over there with the Thunder. You've got Casey Wallace getting his hands on the basketball. You've got Lou Dort getting his hands on the basketball. Dudes below 6'5" are out rebounding you when you have, and I know Luka typically helps rebounding, so maybe the injury there matters, but you've got PJ Washington. You've got size on the court where fouls should not be what's stopping you from getting rebounds. That was an effort proposition.
Wallace in particular, he ran afoul of the Mavs multiple times, and I'm like, how the crap did he get that? Or how the crap did he make a shot? You brought up the 3-point shooting, all right? So let's focus in on 3 guys. Derek Jones Jr., who, by the way, had just one of the most awesome putbacks you're going to see. But Derek Jones Jr., Tim Hardaway Jr., and let's just say Dante Exum Jr. to keep the theme going.
I don't think so.
I know, he's not. 2 for 9.
I remember that.
From 3. And at least 3 of those looks were open shots. And you gotta be hitting them at more than 2 for 9. Like, you can say, hey, they went 4 for 9. That would be a great night. You still would have got worked. Fair enough. You have to do better on the boards. You have to do better shooting from 3, because one of the things that Maxey did really well before he got hurt, obviously, is when he got his lower amount of opportunities, he converted at a good rate. And you might say, well, Exum was 1 for 2. Fair enough. I'm not trying to call him out. I'm not trying to call him out specifically. Just going forward, Exum is going to get open looks, or
He's going to be given open looks.
Exactly.
They were going under on screens, which, again, they don't respect a lot of the guys shooting threes.
And Jones is another good example. Maybe they have more respect for Tim Hardaway Jr., but I saw at least a couple of really good looks for him last night.
And he's smoking them.
Those looks are going to be there, not just tomorrow, but throughout the series.
There was that moment last night when Hardaway took his three because he was like, of course, I'm wide open right now. And then he got the rebound, and I was like, don't shoot it again.
Yeah.
And then he shot it again, and I was like, dang it, why did you shoot it again? But he needs to find his hot somewhere, right? I am kind of curious about Exum's minutes. If he's going to get more, if that's the another thing of length that you can say, okay, I can help there, maybe even help if Luka is really as hurt as he is. You got to figure out a way to take care of his minutes a little bit too. Even with 5 minutes left in the game last night, Kevin, with 5 minutes left, I was like, let's just go ahead and wave the white flag and take Luka out so that you're not beating his knee up anymore right now. But the Mavs still felt, hey, look, either A, we're still trying to get some more information in this game, or B, we are still feeling like we can make another comeback here.
I'm curious if you see any more. I thought Gafford was good last night.
Yes, that was tough. Like, he had a legitimately good game, and it did not feel like it was as a great of an impact as you would hope.
And I wonder if the game's more competitive, as we've talked about, especially if the Mavericks fall behind. I would like to see more Derek Lively. I thought he was looking good. I know he got really beat down.
And emotional.
And yes, when he got the foul call on him on what looked like a pretty good play. But that's neither here nor there, because that was just one play. You lost the game. For sure, you lost the game. But I thought he had the pep and energy that looked good. I thought Josh Green a couple of times did a good job moving the ball up the floor. And he's a Cason Wallace type where he'll get in there and annoy you and get a rebound that you thought your team should have had.
The thing that there was another note that I'd kind of made, it was like the Mavericks looked like they were playing Game 6 of the Clippers series as far as physicality is concerned. I felt like they were just as physical as they were in those two games, and I liked it, but the refs didn't. Yeah. And I was like, oh man, that stinks.
We need a looser whistle.
And you gotta read that better. Like you gotta go, okay, they're not letting us play like that tonight. Maybe they will later in the series, but tonight's not the night, so we gotta change and adjust to that.
Well, I think that's the tough part about the way that they have chosen to play. And I'm not knocking the Mavs for this, but they have leaned on physicality as the defining principle of their defense, and they play on the border of legality. Sure. And so if you get a loose whistle, that's great because everything then looks great. It's legal. You can push people around. You can use your size. When you play on that border of physicality, if you get a little bit tighter of a whistle, which is going to happen, that's natural variance when it comes to calling games. Now you're in a place where your defense isn't viable, and that was what you saw in that game. And I know people want to be mad at those refs. I saw a fairly decently officiated game. It was just that the way that you play defense requires that physicality, and I think that puts you in some tough places at times. And we saw that in the first series as well.
I will admit, by no means did I think you lost the game because of the refs. I did think the refs, I thought they were a little harsh on the whistle. I'm not saying just for the Mavs. I just thought across the board, I thought maybe they were blowing the whistle a little bit too soon. But you're right. Both of y'all are right. You have to be able to adjust when you see that's the case.
Sorry, that's exasperated by the fact that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a foul merchant, and I say that in like a positive way.
Yeah.
With respect to his game, he's got great body control, and he's going to put you in places that's really difficult to contain, and he's going to pick up those fouls. You know that. That's not new. You have to be able to account for it.
Man, the amount
fit that he had before the game was stupid, by the way.
He looked like a word that's original.
Yeah, man. That is right. It just doesn't look comfortable. I know you want to talk basketball and everything, but Lizzie McGuire or Hillary Duff has popped up on my timeline out of nowhere.
Are people tweeting you about her?
No, it's just on I think they heard me. Big world heard me and is now like, oh, you wanted to talk about Hillary Duff? Well, here you go. Here's some cake.